All right. Today's instructor, it's going to be Mr. Christian Sadler, our own Superman. Here's a guy in a perfect example of someone who chose his destination and accepted the path that took him there. How many of us would choose an airplane or a bus or a train and just accept wherever it led us out? That'd be ridiculous. Very few people do that. But we in our lives, so many people choose the easy way. I'll just get a job, a W-2 job. I'll let them pay me every week. I'll let them take the taxes out. And they just accept the destination. And too often it ends them up in the poorhouse. Well, Christian has found success. And not only did he not go behind himself and obscure that pathway to success, he puts up signposts and he polishes them and he puts lights on them and he says, hey, it's over here. And today, to help us find our pathway to success and overcome any of the stepping stones that are in the way is Mr. Christian Sadler. Good morning, Christian.
Good morning, Ron. Can you hear me okay?
It sounds great.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for what you do in starting these calls off continually. And I'm grateful to have you as taking on these calls because you've made it your own. And I know that I keep praising you for it, but the reason I do is because I'm grateful. And I'm always grateful when somebody takes on a task for the team because I know that we cannot do this alone. The only way that this community works is by all of us pitching in where we can, by all of us taking on a task and making it our own, getting passionate about it. And I know that that's why we are what I believe is the fastest growing team in the nation, is because we have so many people that serve and that give and that wake up early, get on these calls earlier than anybody else like you do, just to make sure that you can set things up. And not only that, but make the experience top notch. So thank you, Ron, for what you do. And folks, as I was considering what to speak about on the call today, I was talking with Judy, and Judy had said, what about leverage? What about talking about leverage? And I said, well, what about it? And she went into some ideas about leverage. And then what I did was this morning I got up and I've been starting on this miracle morning thing, as you guys know, and, kind of working through that and figuring out how that fits into my life. And one of the things that I did was I went and found a video, and it was actually of somebody that I admire in the Utah marketplace, a guy that has made a ton of money in real estate investing, in large high-end homes and in real estate development. And I just happened to be friends with him on Facebook, and he had been doing an interview with another guy that I really respect in the Utah marketplace, one of the highest netting realtors here across the Wasatch Front. So I was listening to this concept, and guess what was talked about? Leverage, right? Leverage. And he had talked about how when he first got started, he leveraged the relationships of the people around him. And so the first real estate deal he ever did, he talked to his mission companion's father about putting up the down payment to buy a 5-bedroom house. And then he leveraged his, his attendance at BYU to pay attention to the fact that there were a lot of people in that, going to the school, the same place as him, that were willing to pay rent for basically a bed. So they would be willing to share a room with other people and, pay money for a bed. So he collected the people around him that he would want to live with, right? He leveraged those relationships and started renting out all these different beds. And he said in the biggest rooms, he actually had 2 sets of bunk beds, and he would rent out the bunks for $300 a month, and these guys would pay it. So that was his first real estate deal. And the agreement with the gentleman who put down the down payment was, we'll finance this with the bank, and you manage it, you rent it, you keep it rented, you make sure it's paid for, and then when we sell it, we'll split the profit. And so when he got to the point where he was graduating and they sold that property, they made $120,000. So here he is in college with a $60,000 check, and he now took that and started leveraging to the next level. He then ended up becoming a professional football player. And even though it was a very short-lived career in football, he had met all of these people who were making high incomes that didn't have a clue what to do with it. So what did he do? He went back to real estate and he leveraged those relationships. And he said something in this interview that was probably one of the biggest lessons I ever learned in my beginning in real estate. And let me just check something real quick. It seems like we have somebody off of mute. Let's see if there's... Okay, perfect. So he said something, and it stuck out to me because I actually got this from, and I think the first time I remember it, where it really stuck out to me, was when I was going through Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you guys have read that book, it's great as far as concepts, right? It's awesome as far as mindset. It's one of those books that it has been really pivotal in a lot of people's lives. The funny thing is I didn't read that book. Like, I didn't actually go through that book until like 2 years into this business. Like, everybody else was saying that was the book that they read that changed their mind to even have them thinking about real estate. I already knew I wanted to be real estate, and I had never read the book. But when I did read it, and it was written by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter, and Sharon Lechter is actually the brainchild behind that if you know the full story. And Sharon Lechter is somebody that I've been able to meet and get to know and understand. And Bob Snyder knows Sharon Lechter very well. She is a genius in so many ways, and she is so passionate about empowering children with financial literacy and empowering women with becoming entrepreneurs and business owners. And this concept, I know I'm leading this out a little bit, right? But this concept is really simple and yet so powerful. And it is the mindset of, instead of saying, I can't do that, saying, how can I, whatever it is. So the fulcrum, if you will, right? The fulcrum for the lever is your mindset. And so, oops, let's see, somebody's chatting at me here. Let's see what's happening. Chat. All right, Jen, awesome. So the fulcrum, if you will, is your mindset, okay? You're not going to leverage all of the systems and tools and networks and your team and your mentor if you don't believe that you can. So the fulcrum of your leverage is going to be asking the question, how can I? And never, ever, ever allowing yourself to say you can't. So I want you to think about this for a minute. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to just step back and say, where in the last week or in the last month have you said that you can't? Take the time. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you're sitting there alone, maybe close your eyes if you have to. Not while you're driving, but close your eyes if you have to, if you're not driving, and take about 30 seconds. And I want you to think about something that you've thought of that you have desired in the last week or in the last month where you said, I can't. Okay, the fulcrum to getting that done, whatever that big goal is, whatever that big dream was, is how can I? It's that simple. It's that simple of a concept. Is now ask yourself, how can I? And I've noticed this with myself, is anytime I disregard an idea or a concept or, a big goal or something that somebody brings to me, a deal that seems like it's kind of out of places, every time I kind of brush past it, well, you can probably guess Nothing comes of it. But every time I say, how can I or how can we, new ideas start to come about, right? New resources start to be realized. So I want you to start asking yourself, how can I? Get rid of the word I can't, the words I can't, the idea I can't. In fact, can't should be the worst four-letter word in your household, in your network, in your conversations, right? And I know that a lot of people that are in Renatus, that are part of this community, we already have it. Like when somebody says I can't, we kind of jump back a little bit, right? We do the Kramer, where it's like it's a little bit dramatic. We jump back like, whoa, what was that, right? Did you just say you can't? What does I can't mean? For a lot of us, that language, it's more offensive than if you were to drop, the F-bomb, the C-bomb, and all the other bombs all in a row. That wouldn't faze us. But as soon as somebody says I can't, it kind of shocks us a little bit. In fact, if somebody refuses, right? If somebody refuses to stop using that type of language, it becomes uncomfortable to even be around him. Because I can't is a defeatist mentality, right? So if you've got that $1 million dream, you got to start with the fulcrum, right? As you're looking at the lever here, the fulcrum is that point in the middle. You got to look at that fulcrum of the mindset of how can I? And then it's about stepping in and leveraging those things that you have. So what can you leverage? What are some ideas of leverage? And the ideas, there's so many ideas of leverage. The first thing you got to leverage, in my opinion, is you got to leverage your own action, your own willingness to take action, right? If you're unwilling to put action on one side of the lever, you're not going to move that which is on the other side. Now, sometimes those actions aren't necessarily, you physically doing something. And there's prime examples of that in real estate transactions, right? It is low leverage. It's low leverage for me to go into a property and swing a hammer, or lay down some floors, or hang a door, or put the knobs on the drawers and the cabinets. It's low leverage activity for me to do that, because it doesn't hold a lot of weight. That's not what I'm an expert in. And quite frankly, I can hire that out, right? I can hire it out at a rate so much less than where my high leverage activities are. So my high leverage activities happen to be analyzing a deal, right? Which in that case, I'm leveraging my decade worth of experience. I'm leveraging my own ability to understand an opportunity. I'm leveraging, my own creativity. Because oftentimes you take you take one person to analyze a deal, and you put me up against them analyzing the same deal, and this person over here says I can't, and I start asking how can I, and I find a different way. I find a different path to make that deal happen. Now, when I say make that deal happen, I don't force deals. Get that and understand that very quickly. If something is just a property and it's not a deal, I don't spend a lot of time in it, because it's low leverage activity for me to try and force a deal. I'm better off leveraging my ability to sort through that which can be profitable and that's that which is not, right? So that leverage. What else am I leveraging? Well, I'm leveraging my relationships. Right? This is one of the biggest things that I leverage, is my experience and my relationships. I rarely ever put money into a real estate transaction, right? I rarely ever put money into a real estate transaction because that's not something that I necessarily need to leverage. There's a lot of people that have access to money that don't have access to the experience and to the network and to the time and all those things that I have, the relationships that I've built, and they're happy to put their money in and leverage that, right? And it's an important part. It's a hugely important part of the transaction, right? So I've been taking this idea and this concept recently, and boy, I have been getting super excited. If you guys could see me throughout the day, sometimes I'm just like, I'm cheering uncontrollably to myself with the ideas that are coming about, because I have for so long, I have leveraged properly on the real estate side of the business. And yet on the referral side of the business, right, on the marketing side of the business, on growing this team, on impacting lives the way that we do, so often I have put myself in the position of doing the lower leverage activities. I haven't figured out yet how to leverage on a large scale what it is that we do on the referral side of the business. And recently I've been going through the 10X rule, and it's been sparking so many ideas for me, guys. Just the mindset of it, right? Just the mindset and the idea of taking anything, taking a goal or taking, a resource or whatever it is and timesing it by 10. Taking an idea of what it is that, that I want to accomplish and timesing it by 10. And I recently, have been going through this book. I'm actually on my second time through in probably a week, I think. Yeah, probably a week. I'm already probably, I don't know, over a quarter of the way through my second time through this 10X rule by Grant Cardone. And it's sparking all of these ideas in ways that I can leverage on a large scale the referral side of the business. And so one guy that I've seen who has done really, really well at leveraging to propel his business forward is Mitch Nelson. Mitch Nelson is a guy who he understands the concept of leveraging a team. And remember, when you're leveraging, it's always got to be a win-win, right? When I'm doing a real estate transaction and I'm leveraging, it's always a win-win. The people that I'm paying to do the work, they're excited to do the work because that is their leverage point, is they want to make $12 an hour, $15 an hour, or $50 an hour, or whatever it is that we're paying them, right? And the people that I'm leveraging that want to bring their money in, they're excited because they want to learn the process. They want to understand why I do and don't do a deal. They want to, they want to leverage my experience and leverage my ability to, to create a win. And they want to put their money in. So it's always a win-win-win. And, Mitch is somebody that I've worked with closely in leveraging the team, right? He's really good at leveraging the team. And so if you've watched Mitch's success, what he did was he went and he closed a bunch of warm market people. And then he shifted to leveraging those folks that he had enrolled and having them go out there and, and close their warm market. So he is so extremely and awesomely focused on those bucket sales, right? Leveraging his team and utilizing those bucket sales. So what are my ideas? What is it that's got me so excited? What has me, hooting and hollering throughout the day and pumping my fist in the air for no apparent reason? Well, it's all these ideas of ways I can do it with my network of people who already have access to large networks. They are influencers, right? And it's not like I haven't targeted influencers in the past. It's just usually I'm targeting influencers from a standpoint of I want to enroll the influencer. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going away from that idea, except what I'm realizing is the fulcrum point is, how could I move into getting access to some of these influencers' network and impact them in a positive way, and in fact enroll a whole lot of folks into this process. And these are some of the things that I'm working on more recently that are getting me excited, right? These are the things that have me pumping my fists in the air, is ideas that have been used in other industries that I have seen that have worked extremely well. And I've known people, and I just, for some reason, haven't put two and two together, right? For some reason, I've seen them do that with their industry, and I haven't put the math together of how to apply it to what we do. And right now, with the ideas I have, I believe I may have figured it out. So it's where a lot of my focus has been. It's where a lot of my ideas have been. It's where, sometimes I'm so distracted. I'm getting distracted from other things that I want to be doing in my business as well, because I'm getting so excited about these big ideas. And it's about leveraging relationships in another aspect. It's about leveraging mentors that I have that are in the internet marketing and the affiliate marketing world. It's about leveraging their networks, and in fact, not just a network, but infinite amount of networks, right? And I actually, believe it or not, 2 minutes before we got started on this call, I went and just Googled leverage and went up and pulled up the images, and I found this image right here. And it just fits so perfectly with some of the points that I wanted to get across, because there is a lot of systems and tools and networks and teams and mentors that you can leverage. And that idea right there in the middle of infinite networks. Start thinking to yourself how you can tap into infinite networks. Now, obviously, there's the very simple ideas, and this would be the starting point. Master this, and you will be a top income earner in this company. In fact, the highest personal producer in the company is Mitch Nelson. And this is exactly what he's done. He's figured out that if he leveraged his network, and then he took those people and leveraged their network, and then those next people that came in, he leveraged their network, that creates infinite networks, right? So master that, and you're there. But what if you thought on a scale of 10 times? What if you 10x'd it, as they say? And if you haven't been through that book, I'm going to suggest you do it. If only for the inspiration and the ideas that will come about from it. The 10x rule is in our Audible. Jump in and go through that. But what if you could 10x these goals that you have? What would it take? You would have to 10x your effort. You're going to have to 10x your energy. You're going to have to 10x the ideas that you have. And I want you to think about that, of what you can leverage. What right now do you have that you can leverage to get yourself closer to that $1 million dream? It might be leveraging your mentor. So, for example, we have the EMT coming up. We have the training with Michael Huggins. Now, Michael is somebody who, you look at his team, you look at what he's been able to create, you look at how many top income earners he's been able to enroll and inspire and motivate and create. And he's going to be running this EMT coming up in February. February 12th is when it starts. So it's 11 days away. As we look at the calendar, 11 days away, this EMT is going to start, and it's going to be Mondays. What if you could leverage Michael's experience, his training, his, really his time and his effort and his relationships and his energy? This is your opportunity. Leverage him as a mentor. I'm taking the EMT, right? Because I know that if I want to inspire my team to take a certain action, I can't ask them to do anything that I would not do myself. So if you're on my team, or even if you're not, right? Listen to me. I'm taking the EMT, and I would suggest you do it as well, because it's a way to leverage Michael as a mentor. Leverage your team. And if you're just getting started, your team is not the people you have enrolled yet. Enroll and leverage the people around you. This is how I've created, I believe, one of the strongest business partnerships in this company that I've ever really known of with Steve Myers. Was I leveraged him. He leveraged me because we were the first ones to show up at the office in the morning. We would, make calls throughout the day. We would hang out and listen to, team calls, and we would put together sandbag flyers and roadside signs and, different things. And we would go out and we would do them together. We weren't connected as far as financially. He wasn't in my business. I wasn't in his in the beginning, right? It was just simply, I was leveraging his motivation and he was leveraging mine. It's kind of like having a workout buddy, right? So who can you leverage to inspire you to get up in the morning and go get it done, to do the actions necessary? Who can you leverage to stay up late at night, right? Leverage your own efforts first. And in the meantime, start thinking on 10x levels. So with that, folks, I know I've gone a little bit over on time. There's a chat here. Jen, ask that on the Facebook group if you would, and that way you can get access to that. So ask that in the Facebook group, and we'll make that happen. So thank you, folks, for being on here. Your fulcrum is your mindset of how can I? There is nothing too big. You just have to ask yourself, how can I? And to think bigger, go through that book, 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Start thinking on 10 times the scale that you're thinking of right now. Thanks for being on here, folks. Get out there and make this your day.